Now Commissioner Langworthy, questions?
Good decision. Thanks for keeping me in order. Highway 395. Mr. York, is that recognized within our city, Highway 395?
Old Highway 395 did go through our city at one time. There is a historic Old Highway 395, but it is no longer a designation.
But other cities like Temecula, Murrieta, Elsinore, have they put up those beautiful little brown placards?
They have along Jefferson.
Okay, so what I have read in the Valley News and also some of the other local newspapers is that Highway 395, there's a recognition effort being brought forward by history buffs throughout. It's basically a road that goes from Mexico through the western states all the way up to Canada. And part of that Highway 395 is Fallbrook, Temecula, Murrieta, Wildomar, Lake Elsinore. And they've had some events and are just encouraging that alternate use, that people slow down and enjoy the rural area. And so the 395 designation and people realizing that there is an alternate to taking the freeways will make our, that route more interesting, more desirable as an alternate to the freeways. So I just wanted to bring that into the conversation that whether we do something or not, there will be traffic because it's a historical interest trail, highway, the old historic 395. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Langworthy. Just to add, with regards to the highway or road situation, prior to 1990, the only incorporated city was Lake Elsinore. Murrieta, Temecula, Wildomar were not incorporated. So the county planning department and still controlled development. And their general plan covered this area. And in the 1980s, the county planning department upgraded the general plan, and in that they upgraded what was called the traffic element. They showed Washington as a major thorough arterial through the center of Murrieta. Well, there was a committee of citizens that was advising the county planning department, approximately 18, 20 individuals, and there was 3 or 4 from the Murrieta area. The Murrieta community and the Murrieta contingency basically come unglued. They did not want a arterial highway through the center of Old Town Murrieta. And so they pushed and prevailed on the county to change the major arterial highway from Temecula to Lake Elsinore to Jefferson. And that's why you see, if you've driven it, the existing Jefferson through the Murrieta Temecula area is 4 lanes or greater. And so this master plan has been since 1989 was to tie Jefferson and connect it into Palomar as a 4 to 6 lane, and then T intersection the Washington Street. So and then when it comes to the grade and elevations, I think if there was any questions, our city engineer Dan York could answer those. But I think that that Mr. York has already reviewed the applicant's plan and made any necessary comments. Correct, Mr. York?
Yeah, that is correct. The city does have a capital improvement project for Palomar to make it a 4-lane road. We also have the realignment for Washington also as a 4-lane road. Those grades have been set as been stated tonight. We've also coordinated that design with an adjacent, Mr. Rhodes spoke earlier. His development also has got a requirement to build a portion of that road. So it has all been reviewed and commented on and is included in the conditions of approval for your plot plan and the map that's before you.
And I believe even the city of Marietta has signed on to that connection because it helps complete the traffic element and flow for safety reasons to both communities. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Commissioners, comments, questions? Okay. Mr. Lloyd.
On the through traffic itself, that piece of it. Yeah, it's been over 20 years that's been in the making, trying to create an arterial that would go in between the communities. Because currently it's necessary to go to the freeway, to go down one off-ramp to get back off again, or to take Washington down through Old Town and back up again. By creating this mini arterial, or whatever you want to call it, it will actually help traffic overall between our two communities, where we can actually work together and go back and forth between towns. So that piece of it, I understand why they've been working towards it. And we did receive a letter from one of the city planners from Marietta that has reviewed the plot plan, and he is promoting the project as far as the interconnection. If you go up to Jefferson, you can see that the street actually comes into a curve, goes beyond the last street that comes off from it, and goes all the way to the city limits. They've built it out as far as they possibly can and aligned it to where it can be connected directly to us. It's specifically for that. So whether this project does that or not, that's going to happen. That's something that's needed for both communities. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd.
I agree with that. Very much so. We do need that, whether this project's completed or not. I do want to tell everybody thank you for showing up. I know it's been a long night for everybody, but it is kind of nice to know that we have this many people in the community that do care and care about what the projects are and care about how we develop our city and what's put in. And I do think that as us sitting up here as planning commissioners, we do have a responsibility to our community, both Wildomar and the city of Marietta, our neighbors. I do want to know that I did drive around. I did try to find along the border of Wildomar and Marietta a townhome condominium complex that was built on Marietta, and I couldn't find it on any of the borders. So I do understand your concerns. I do want to say that if it was my home and I bought a home right there, living there, I would have those same concerns of the privacy issues that we brought up, and wanting to make sure that something that was developed in the land across from where I live would increase the value of my property, not possibly decrease the value of my property. So I just wanted you guys to know that from me, thank you for showing up, thank you for taking pride in your community, and thank you for taking the time to come and voice your concerns.
Commissioner Thomas, any comments?
I agree with Commissioner Strong, and I did actually meet with some of the residents, and I went and stood in their backyards, looked at the lines, and then since have driven back a few times to see what the difference would look like with the new setbacks. I have to agree. I think if it was my home in Marietta, I'd be sitting right here with you. It's hard to say that I would want a project so close. I think I like some parts of this project. I don't think that it's a very family-friendly project. Unfortunately, the design itself doesn't have any place to make you feel like you own a piece of property. There's no patio, there's no slab in front of your door, there's nothing to make you feel like you own anything, so it feels like a rental. If I buy a $350,000 condominium, my husband and I, when we first were married, newlyweds, you know, before we had kids, we had a 2-bedroom townhouse. We had a nice little backyard for our dog, and when we decided to grow our family, we bought a bigger home. But we had a place to have a barbecue. We had a little spot to sit down outside. This doesn't have that. It feels very temporary. It feels very not homey, which Wildomar, we are a family neighborhood. We have homes. We enjoy each other, and I don't feel like there's any of that. I know there's designated barbecue areas, but if I want to just make burgers for lunch, there's no place for me to do that. I have to go and carry all of my items to the barbecue area, and I wouldn't do that. So, I like parts of this, but I don't know, honestly, if I wouldn't want to live next to it.
Commissioner Lloyd.
I do have some problems with the privacy concerns. You know, driving through the neighborhood, you guys live on a ridge, and it's virtually every street is on top of the street behind it. So most streets do have somebody looking into another backyard. That's a continuous thing throughout that whole neighborhood. And then the concept of whoever builds up on the top of the ridge, they're going to look down into whoever's yard just as well. That it's an apartment complex, that puts a different spin to it. Because you're right, you have a lot more people in a complex than you would in a house. But at the same time, in an apartment complex where you've gone to the extent that the developer's going with the landscaping and the windows and all the changes that have been made, in that way you do have better privacy than what I saw from looking up into the backyards of all the people that were looking down onto others going through your neighborhood. So it's kind of up in the air both ways in my mind. It's a hard one.
Commissioner Langworth.
There's a lot on both sides. I appreciate the applicant has made some significant changes, especially towards the facade, making it look more ranch. The setback, the wall, the greenery. Those are, you know, very thoughtful. But we also have a number of people that have expressed concerns too, so. It's a tough decision.
Well, anytime you have development, it's, and you've been used to not having anybody next to you other than a coyote, you're gonna feel offended, and you're gonna feel like, okay, great, I moved out here for it to be rural. But rural disappeared 20, 30 years ago. Please, folks, please. I'll tell you what rural is. I came here in 1973. There was 1,800 people in Wildomar. There was about 3,000 in Marietta and 3 to 4 in Temecula. Elsinore is the only incorporated city, about 14,000, 15,000. So you want to talk about rural, I know rural. And plus I lived on a farm for a while. The minute, in the 1980s, the minute the area started to grow, rural disappeared. Where the Grizzly Ridge is, that was a horse ranch. And where the high school, Marietta Valley High School in Thompson, that was owned by the Thompson family. They grew hay to feed the horse ranches. Anybody think about Thompson Middle School? It was named for the Thompson family. Magnolia, there was the Delaney Stock Farm. So I can go on and on and on. The area, Murrieta was Horsetown. Believe me, it was beautiful. It was probably as close to rural as you could be. So about the only thing that's still there is the Murrieta Mini Market. The growth and your predecessors in Murrieta preserved your old town, and you still have some community there. But your growth around the area, Murrieta is now over 100,000. I think close to 110.
Don't do that to Wildomar.
That's not real. And Wildomar is over 30,000. So the rural, unfortunately, because of what was out here, everybody says, golly, I want to move out there. I understand, because that's what I did. But because as we moved into the area, we changed it. The demand was there, and so the builders followed it up. So this particular parcel is not, there is another existing, what was an apartment complex is now a condo. It's a 3-story, it's on Prelip Road, looks right down, and it's an exact replica of what we're talking about here today. It looks down into homes in Murrieta. It looks right straight into their backyards. There's no frosted windows. Their view is, you can, and I drove up there and stood there. I could look right down into the pools and everything. And then when you drive around to the homes, you look up, and there's 3 stories. It's 30 to 40 feet up in the air. So
Does that make it
there,
right?
along the border there's quite a few of this type of multifamily on the Wildomar side, and on the Murrieta side is single family. So this isn't the first one, and it won't be the last one to come in front of us. So it's an issue that's going to live. But its bottom line is its development.
Oh, come on.
And it's, the applicant is,
Not there.
the applicant is compatible with the general plan.
Oh,
And
my
for that
gosh.
reason, I'm going to make the motion that the Planning Commission adopt PC Resolution number 2017-07.
What? You gotta be kidding
Kind of
me.
a short comment.
You can.
Thank you.
Terrible.
I lost my train of thought here for a second.
It was so short.
Your statement on the applicant. The applicant has taken the general plan to heart. They purchased the property knowing exactly what the property was to be used for. It was what the general plan stated. They have designed housing that fits the general plan and fits the parcel. And they have taken several steps to try to modify, to try to create some level of privacy, to try to make it fit in with the community as best they can for what it is.
Commissioner Lloyd, there was a different plan on this property, and they did foreclose on it. So there was some other things going on in there, so
And the
I
other-
don't know that they actually purchased it for that.
Well, the other plan was medium density, medium high density as well.
It was single-family residence.
Right, just smaller.
Single family.
Single family, not medium.
Just,
But I'm just saying, there was some other
Commissioners,
stuff that was going on.
Commissioners, we can have discussion, but let's finish with, there is a motion,
Is there a vote?
and I'm looking for a second.
No, no, come on.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Oh, my God.
now we can have discussion.
So if-
Okay, Commissioner Strong, you were talking.
Chairman, could you ask the audience to open comments? I told you to focus.
Okay, folks, please, we didn't interrupt you when you were talking, and you did really well, and I know that perhaps some of this conversation's not going in the direction that you were hoping for, but you've been real good all night, and so I please ask you for some more courtesy. Thank you. Commissioner Strong.
Well, I do have some concerns, and I have concerns with this being a project for the city of Wildomar. And, you know, this isn't necessarily, as we said in the prior meetings, what you want when you first come into the city of Wildomar. It's not the vision. And the general plan can be changed. It can be changed. So we have to take that into consideration. I understand that they did this based on the general plan, but there's been lots of changes and things going on with this property. And there were other plans on this property. And, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on. So we need to do what's best for the city of Wildomar.
Yeah. It's what we were promised when Wildomar became a city.
Please, folks, please. Commissioner Thomas.
I agree. It kind of seems a little strange to put, when you stand there on Palomar and you look at the view at the project site, you know, you see to the right, the housing over there, you see to the left, you turn around, it's the rural, the church is back there, the school is back there. It kind of seems like you're plopping it in the center. It doesn't quite fit. I think if it was more, and I hate to say, I think with my heart, and if it looked more family friendly, more inviting to a family, you have 3-bedroom homes. 3 bedrooms is not a starter home. 3 bedrooms is either a retirement home and I have my grandkids over so I have a room for them.
Yes.
I want to have a little piece of something. I want something to look a little nicer. That's, you either start in a condo or townhome, or you end in one because it's an easier maintenance. And it just doesn't have that feeling of permanence to stay there for longer than a year or two. It feels like a rental. I look at the apartments directly across the street from us here, and I think they're a nicer looking project than this. They have beautiful patios. I see those kids walk to school. My kids go to school with these kids here. They walk to school and back. It feels like a home. And it feels right because they are right next to a shopping center, so they can walk to the shopping center. So it feels like it's a project that would work. But this doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah,
There's something doesn't seem right.
there you
I'm
go.
sorry.
Commissioner Lloyd?
I think I've molded over as much as I can.
Commissioner Langworthy?
We're talking about the what motion is before submitted?
The
Neg
number,
deck.
it would be 2.11, which is PC Resolution number 2017-07, which is adoption of initial study and mitigated negative
Neg deck. And I think we've kind of got into the next topic.
Could have been, but the motion was.
Chair, if I could just intervene real quick. Just want to make sure that everyone understands that adopting these resolutions are recommendations to the city council. You are only advisory body in this meeting tonight. You're not the final decision authority, so I want to make sure everyone understands that. So any recommendation either for or against the project is a recommendation to council.
Thank you, Mr. Massey.
I appreciate that comment.
Nice to be reminded.
Yes, it's kind of a long night.
Yes.
So we have, you've made a motion.
I made a motion and Commissioner Lloyd second, and it has to do with the item number 1, which is PC Resolution number 2017-07, and it's adoption of initial study and mitigated negative deck. And as Planning Director Bassey stated, if you look up where the capital recommendation, Planning Department recommends the planning take the following advice, and we adopt the resolution, and we're recommending approval. We're not approving it because the council is the final authority. we can take a vote. So, Mr. Garcia, would you do a voice vote?
Chairman Smith,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lloyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Langworthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
Nay.
Nay.
Commissioner Strong. Motion passes 3-2.
All right, and we'll move to item 2, adopt a resolution entitled PC Resolution Number 2017-08. I will make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council the adoption of PC Resolution Number 2017-08. Do I have a second?
So that's a change of zone. I'll second.
That is a change of zone.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, good for you.
Sorry, neighbors.
Shame on me, yeah, thanks, thanks for trying.
You will have another opportunity to speak to the city council. We are moving forward, and you can speak then.
When is that?
All your citizens have just left. How does that make you feel?
Please, folks,
Exactly.
do I have a second?
I seconded it.
Okay, Commissioner Langworthy. Comments, commissioners? Would you please call for the vote, Mr. Garcia?
Yes, sir. Chairman Smith,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lloyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Langworthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Nay.
and Commissioner Strong.
Nay.
Motion passes,
Wow.
resolution passes 3-2.
All right, next item. Number 3.
Let's go.
I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission adopt PC Resolution Number 2017-09, which is approval of tentative track map number 37156. Do I have a second? Okay, Mr. Garcia, would you call for the vote?
Chairman Smith,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lloyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Langworthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Strong.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2.
We'll move to the very last, number 4, adopt a resolution. Make a motion, we adopt PC Resolution Number 2017-10, which is recommending to the City Council approval of a plot plan to develop the Camellia Townhouse project.
Chair, as part of that motion, that should include the language that I read into the record during my presentation on Public Works Condition Number 50.
Yes,
This-
you're right.
This is for the plot plan, correct? If I could just clarify, I think condition 50 already has that language. I saw that earlier on the traffic signal for in lieu. The only difference is the condition 50 was at building permit, and the 53 that you read into the record was at certificate of occupancy. So you can either leave the condition as is with building permit and not read in condition, or condition 53.
I'll modify my motion to incorporate City Engineer Dan York's comments.
Is that confirmed?
And could you read that revised condition number 50, please?
Public Works Condition 50 says prior to the issuance of building permits, we would strike that to read certificate of occupancy. The applicant shall pay an in lieu amount based on fair share calculation for the future traffic signal at the intersection of Jefferson and Washington to the satisfaction of the engineer. Time and implementation is prior to certificate of issuance for certificate of occupancy, not issuance of building permit.
Mr. Massey, does that fulfill your requirements?
It does.
Okay, good. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments, commissioners? Mr. Garcia, would you call vote?
Chairman Smith,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lloyd,
Aye.
Commissioner Langworthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Nay.
Commissioner Strong.
Nay.
Resolution passes 3-2.
Commissioners, thank you. It was a tough one, and obviously there were some emotions involved, but there's issues more than emotions at times to deal with, and so we'll let the city take it, council take it from here. So now we have next item 3.0, which is general business, and there is no general business.